Thank you. I'm going to do a very short intro. I've been a network engineer for over 30 years. That means I started back in the days of coax, ArcNet, and Novell NetWare, and no wireless to speak of. If I ever encounter you guys out in the wild, love to sit down and have a beer and share talks about old times. But I'll admit, during my history, one of the things that has frustrated me is the lack of automation regarding troubleshooting. And what this means is that with every monitoring package, every troubleshooting tool that I came across, it all seemed to be go out and collect a piece of data, and then go out and collect another piece of data, and collect a third piece of data, and try and put it together with your smarts to make sense of that, and realize that you need a fourth and a fifth piece of data to actually answer the question. But you can't get the question answered because the problem isn't happening anymore. And so I figured a whole new way of looking at network troubleshooting, network monitoring, with a high degree of automation and intelligence built into the solution needed to be created. And so we've done that for network operations, we've done that for telecom, we've done that for security. What we're going to go through today is what we're doing for supporting remote and mobile users. And this is especially appropriate in our current pandemic environment. So without further ado, let's dive in. So we've created a solution called RemoteView, and here's what it's able to do. We're going to start with a sample scenario. So you have a CFO working from home. They have a poor quality Zoom team meeting. You need to help them out because they're stuck and they're saying, hey, I can't do any work. And you're kind of tasked with helping them out, but you're thinking, I can't do a site visit. I can't drive out to their location. What can you do? Well, if you scope the problem out, you have the internet component, you have the Zoom team cloud servers component, you have a headquarters component, you have the user's home office. Inside their home office, they have some $29 brand of firewall, some unknown access point, and then they have their laptop. Now, you're going to have problems from all sorts of different locations because you can have weak wireless signal strength, wireless channel contention in their neighborhood, firewall issues, ISP overload issues, ISP drop issues, split tunneling problems. And so all of these problems make it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to troubleshoot and help that user solve the problem. Typically, what you try and do is say, hey, let's schedule and set up a meeting and I'll remote into your computer and see if I can help you out. You set the meeting up a couple of hours from now, you try and get in the meeting and the user can't even get the meeting started because their latency is too high or their packet loss is too high or something's just not working right. Even if you do get into the meeting, they pass control to you and they fumble around with that. And then you find out, okay, what are the tools available to you to troubleshoot? You have ping and traceroute. Good luck in actually finding the problem. So this is where a lot of folks were stuck, and so they needed some automation. So here's what we decided to do to solve the problem. What you do is you send the user a single agent and say, here, run this. The non-technical user will execute that agent. It's going to perform a script of tests against all of these different elements, pull that information back according to the user's perspective, batch it together, and then send it back to the TotalView server. Now, the TotalView server is inside your corporate environment, so all this data is maintained internally for security purposes. But what happens is you get an email alert saying, this patient's lab results are now in. The doctor can now review what's going on. At that point, you go in and say, let's see what's happening. Looks like their laptop is fine. The CPU, memory is good. Wireless signal strength, that's really low. I'm going to suggest they move to a different location or maybe plug into wired Ethernet. Also, in their neighborhood, everyone's using wireless channel 3. If we change to channel 6, they're going to have a better time because nobody's using that in their neighborhood. Their firewall is adding a bunch of latency. I think we're going to ship them out a little bit higher performing firewall so it's not adding that latency. Additionally, their ISP is only giving them 4.2 megs of upload. That's horrible. Is that what they're paying for? Also, they're having some slow web pages, and we can help diagnose that by showing a web waterfall to find out, is it a DNS issue? Is it a caching issue? Is it a database issue? What is causing that page to build slow? So with all of this troubleshooting information automatically brought back, you're going to be able to say, I'll spend 2 minutes and be able to tell the user, here's 5 things you can do to improve your work at home environment and fix those problems, because it's been automatically collected, analyzed, and it allows you to easily and rapidly digest. So the number of tests we have is pretty incredible by the fact that you can schedule RTP tests, you can schedule to have DNS lookup tests with all the details, you can have DSCP loss tests to find out, are we losing DSCP tags, wireless tests, link troubleshooting tests. So all of these tests allow you to see what is the user perceiving from their location, so that you can end up analyzing it and say, if I had an analyzer or I was at their location, I'd have all of this test information automatically collected, and I don't need to be there or ship an expensive hardware analyzer out and expect the user to eventually ship it back. So here's a screenshot of a wireless signal strength test that I did, and you can see it starts with the RSSI towards the left. It's actually kind of yellow. It's not really all that good. And I started that test in my kitchen. I picked up my laptop and I walked, and second by second, it changed to this nice bright green color as I walked to the living room. So the living room's a great place for me to do meetings. As I exited the back door and walked to the far corner of my yard, very quickly it dropped yellow, red, then black as the signal strength just degraded to the point where it's no longer functional.
Tim, you walked it yourself to get this data. Is there any tags in this about that location?
So we don't geotag the location yet. So in one sense, this is the user's going to be able to determine it's good on the first floor, good on the second floor, it's bad in the basement. They're going to be able to make that determination themselves. So we're not doing a geolocation, but we are looking at adding that in the near future.
Can I ask, does this work with all wireless clients? And if so, how are you getting the RSSI information? Because I know Windows by default won't give RSSI, it just gives a percentage.
You're exactly correct. And the percentage is useless. If you notice, actually, we have a number of ways that we actually query the RSSI. So in one sense, I'll say we have a little bit of secret sauce is we've dug into the stack to find out how to get that. So you can see the bottom graph is signal quality, which is the Microsoft percentage. And it shows 100% for this whole time period, thus useless. We have a second method that we'll do is the OP RSSI method, and that shows varying degrees. But effectively, the true method that we found that works is the BSS RSSI method. So by having multiple methods, we're going to make sure we're still getting this information out no matter what adapter you have running on whatever operating system. So we're going a little bit lower in the stack than what other products go for.
And does that include Mac OS?
So currently we're only doing this on Windows. We do have some capability for Mac for doing remote user testing. It doesn't really involve wireless as much. What we're doing is we have a browser-based solution that uses WebRTC. So the WebRTC will allow you to pop open a browser and say, what is my signal, what is my packet loss, latency, jitter, that type of information, so that you can see what does it look like from a web browser using the web browser client. But there are some limitations in that web browser client, as you tend to not be able to go down as deep into the stack as you can when you have an application.
Of course, I think this is, of course, the holy grail, right? Is if you can get telemetry from an end device, that's obviously the holy grail. I think obviously the question becomes, there's so much variance in Windows machines, and then of course, what about Mac? And then of course, what about iPhones, Android phones, all the other endpoints that you could possibly be using?
Right now, what we figure is the business case is strongest for doing it for all of the Windows operating systems. So that's what we focused on first. Our second tack is to go into Mac OS and get that covered. And then as the business case develops, we're going to get the Windows platform, iOS effectively, and then the Android. So part of our thing is speed to market, because the need is out there for a lot of folks saying, hey, we've got to help these users troubleshoot. And even when these folks come back to the office, I don't know if you guys see this, but I'm going to make a prediction here that I figure what will happen is a lot of organizations are going to get rid of their 500 employee offices and say, okay, we're shrinking our office down. We're going to have enough hot desk space for 70 people to be in the office at a time. And people are going to go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and the telecommuting is going to be maintained. That means that wireless is going to be far more important, even in the enterprise environment, than it ever was, because people aren't locked down to their own desk. So having something like this be able to use to troubleshoot, is it a signal strength problem? Is it a problem with packet loss? Is it a problem with a firewall? Is it a problem with the user's own laptop is running World of Warcraft in the background and the help desk needs to say, no, don't do that. One other use case I'll describe is, so there's really kind of, I guess, 3 primary use cases. One is send this out, do some immediate ad hoc troubleshooting. Second is if you have like a call center and people are on phone calls, this can be continuously validating the network behind the scenes, taking either 8K or 64K worth of streaming bandwidth to be able to say, yes, we have a call quality problem and we see that it's to this router and it's because of packet loss or it's because of jitter or latency. So we can end up doing that call quality troubleshooting for call center users. We can also use it for policy enforcement, meaning a call center user attempts to log in at their home, and if their packet loss or latency or jitter is too high, we will not let them log in to take calls because it will make the company look bad.
Hey, Tim, have you gone down the road of getting this agent put on like Active Directory machines? I'm a work from home. I take home my AD laptop. Is there any friction there with getting it to work in an AD environment, given that it's an agent? Can it be, deployed GPO and all of that?
Yeah. So one of the things that makes it really easy is this is a single executable. So you can send somebody a link to this and say, here, go run this. You don't have to install or uninstall, or you can have the orchestration system actually just do a copy of this to a directory and say, it's here. Doesn't even need to be installed. It just needs to be on that computer. So it's actually very simple for companies to say, let's push this out. The other thing is that the agent, I believe, I'm trying to remember, it's about 20 megs. So the single executable isn't actually this gargantuan thing to deploy. It's not a huge deployment.
With this, is it something that the user can kind of initiate themselves? Is it something that an admin can initiate without any user interaction as well, as a one-off test rather than a continual test?
So the user can initiate a test. We are working on having it run. So we're not there yet for having the admin force the test on the user, but we will have that eventually where it runs in the background. It will fetch the script from the centralized server because the administrator says, I want you to run this test and report the data back to me. So we're not there yet, but that is next on our list.
And so you expect this to long-term be 2 modes of operation, one of which is user interactive, and then the other is running headless as a transparent process on a machine full-time that you can then go out and ask for information from?
Yes. Actually, it will be reporting its information back so that you can go in and say, what happened 2 hours ago on this computer, and be able to say, okay, yeah, it was a signal strength problem, and you call the user up and say, what were you doing? Oh, well, I was in the kitchen microwaving a burrito. It's like, yeah, okay, what Wi-Fi were you using? Okay, I can see you're using 2.5 gigahertz. Yeah, don't do all that. That's bad stuff.
I guess just one question I have, and I don't know if it's end of day, ill thought out, semi-rhetorical, but I can't help but, after we just sat through Aruba Networks and Arista, everybody's doing the AI, we're going to solve your work from home problems. It's not just them. We're going to probably hear more of it tomorrow. And I mean, it's just a constant drumbeat now from the wireless vendors themselves. So when it comes time to spend, finite budget dollars, how do you differentiate this from that? If somebody says, well, we already get that in our WLAN system, the work from home support, troubleshooting tools, blah, blah, blah. What makes, PathSolutions worth spending a little more?
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is you have somebody who has a laptop, they're working out of Starbucks, they're working out of their house, and they're having problems and they need support. I can't imagine Aruba reaching out to that user working at their home, especially if they have a Meraki at their house or even a Netgear. So that's blind to them unless they're on the corporate network. Or did I miss some new announcement that they said that they're reaching out to other vendors and managing that stuff?
No, a lot of the model is, they're on a remote access point rather than VPN. Therefore, the infrastructure has been extended. But again, I admit it was a half-baked question, and it depends on the scenario. I realize, but
yeah, in one sense, we're going to be helpful in any vendor scenario, and I think that's part of the problem when you have work from home users and work from anywhere users. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that also have multi-vendor wireless deployments where, gee, we acquired 3 companies last year, and therefore it means we end up with 6 different wireless vendors, whether you look at what Extreme's doing, Aruba, Ruckus, just list out all the vendors and say, we got to support all this stuff. And you figure, well, we're not going to put a whole bunch of money into Aruba's management system because it's only a one vendor solution. And what you need is a multi-vendor solution. So that's kind of one of our key points here is it's going to make it easy to manage all of these remote workers multi-vendor, except Windows only. I should be very clear on that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.